Hello everyone, welcome back to Marvel Mania. It's time to watch Deadpool 2. I'm Captain Logan, and joining me as always is my wonderful co-host, DJ Martinez.
Hello everyone. Evening.
What's up, man?
Not much. Ready to watch some Marvel movies with my best pal.
Oh man, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
Oh, it's December, man. We just put up our tree day. So, we've got all the fuzzies.
This is the most Christmas spirit I felt this early in the year in a long time. Because we usually don't get anything done this early, and we're ready, man. Sarah and I have half our presents wrapped already. Like we're like
in good shape.
We're solid, yeah.
I wish I was there with you. I still got to get all those, but we got our tree up and it's decorated and it was fun.
We did all the decorating the day after Thanksgiving, which we usually don't do, and we always talk about doing. And I think a lot of it this year is we have this has nothing to do with anything. We have a 2-year-old, and he's all excited about Christmas, and it's hard not to want to just get everything up for him. So
yeah, same.
We had it on our brain. Well, folks,
Deadpool.
If you're watching live, thanks a bunch for being here. Make sure that you've got your Deadpool 2 rigged up and ready to go on your DVD, Blu-ray, however you want to watch it. We are watching it on Hulu. I didn't even realize it was there until DJ mentioned it to me. I was going to watch it on my disc, but I only have it on Blu-ray because this is one of those rare discs that they don't actually put the or releases, excuse me, where they don't put the DVD with the Blu-ray. So with my setup here, I didn't have a good way to watch it. So luckily, it is streaming there, or I would have had to have paid for a rental for a movie I own, which I have done at least 5 times in my career.
Too many times.
Yeah.
Too many times.
I've done it a few times. Quite a few folks here already. Welcome, everybody. We're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. No reason for a whole bunch of preamble, I don't think. It's Deadpool 2. Everybody knows about the sequel to Deadpool 2, 2018. We're gonna have our cable and eat it too. Is everybody ready? And watch it too. Yeah, well, that joke.
Metaphor broke down a little.
That could have been formulated a little bit better. Is everybody ready? If you're watching it on Hulu, there's going to be an advisory statement at the beginning because it's a rated R film, so get it past that too, because I have already looked at that and then got it to timestamp 0 on my end. Everybody ready to go? Let's go ahead and do it. Everybody, please press play right now. So DJ, I know you're not the biggest Deadpool fan. Are you? Do you prefer this film or the first film?
I much preferred this film, but I didn't like the first film at all. So it wasn't a high bar to get over.
Well, that's sad for me. I love that first film. And I stand by that. I went back and rewatched both of these back to back in preparation for this, and they do not watch great back to back. This is a movie, and it makes sense, right? Because it's Deadpool, and it's very much about the moment, and talking about whatever pop culture-y things especially are happening in the world right now, especially Logan, and the fact that we killed off Wolverine before we got to this movie. I think that whole thing is hilarious, by the way.
That's an awesome prop.
I was very happy with that. I love to have that music box, by the way. That is a hysterical music box. But I guess it kind of I guess it kind of makes sense that it would be intended to be watched, more when it came out than any other time. But like this movie wants you to have waited 2 years before you see it. And when you watch them in rapid succession, I think some of the seams start to show that didn't for people who didn't go back to that first movie much. Because I had already seen it 3 or 4 times and had seen it again right before I saw this in the theater, and didn't like it as well as a lot of people, including my wife, who thought it was better than the first. That hadn't seen that first movie more than once and not since it came out. Well, Sarah watched both of these with me, and she goes, "Oh, you're right, he doesn't watch as well if you just saw one." So she agrees with me on that now. She's on the fence about which is better, but she's with me on they don't watch great together.
Yeah, I haven't gone back to the first one, so I cannot comment on that phenomenon.
So you can just live in ignorant bliss. It's great. It's just fine. This is an amusing opening. We're doing the same thing we did with the first film, where we're starting out kind of non-linear, with Deadpool in a real kind of precarious place, and then, of course, we're going to flash back to how he got there. That's a thing that I complain about all the time with modern stuff, especially comics. With Deadpool, I don't mind it as much. It's I don't know, the way it's handled is amusing, and we have kind of a, I don't know, we have kind of a formula from that first movie that we're sort of sticking with. So I like that. I like that opening. I like the provocativeness of, because it's the bleak Deadpool that I really wanted. That's opening is very Joe Kelly, and then of course we're gonna ruin it with the ending, which I'll talk about when we get there. But I like the opening. I like like I said, the provocativeness of that, the bleakness of it. That it's going to open with "Screw you, Wolverine. I'm also going to kill myself," and or going to die in my own movie. There's a reason for it. We'll get there. I'll show you how I got to this, horrible, bleak, depressing place. But then when we do here in a little bit the Vanessa kill, that struck me as the really obvious kind of routine thing to do in the theater, and I don't like the way the movie plays it as like risky or a big deal or not a thing that anybody would have expected. I don't love the opening credits for that, where it's like, oh my god, I can't believe you just killed her. Yeah, I can. It's what we do with girlfriends in superhero movies. We write them out right away in sequels. It's what we always do.
The thing that, and we're not there yet, so maybe I shouldn't get into that yet.
No, go ahead.
The thing that stuck out to me on the second viewing, I watched it today while I was at work.
At work?
It's not a movie you have to pay that much attention to. The thing that stuck out to me was how freaking sappy the beginning is. It's so over the top sappy.
I mean, I think it's pretty sappy at the end too, but
yeah, well, definitely. But like, I don't know. I think I was having my first kid when this movie came out, so I think it was a little more. It hit me a little better. It didn't seem as sappy to me because I was like having some of the same feelings. But now that I'm like away from it a couple of years, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, this is gooby, as my wife says.
Yeah, that makes sense. I don't mean to come out swinging like I really don't like this movie. I've got probably more criticisms to talk about than praises with this, just because a lot of what I like about it is stuff that first movie did well. Also, a lot of just subjective humor things that you either find funny or you don't. The production values, of course, are still great. I like that it's not ramped up too horribly much in the money department. It doesn't look like a movie that would have costed that much more to make than that first one, and I respect that a great deal. Because, of course, this movie gets made and I think kind of rushed out because that first movie was so unexpectedly popular. This was a thing Fox didn't want to make. They didn't understand it. They didn't get why Ryan Reynolds wanted to make it so bad. But they went ahead and took a chance on it because Ryan Reynolds and his friends made a really good reel to show them how it could work. And then, suddenly, very oddly, they end up with a franchise on their hands that is more popular than X-Men.
So weird.
And so then Fox, sort of like ABC with Lost, you gotta keep making them, crank them out.
Watching it this second time, I forgot who this guy was because I've never gone back to the first one.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. He's the guy in the first one.
Yeah, so this kind of ongoing gag with him is kind of amusing, where he was just the taxi driver initially, and for whatever reason, I think because he just has a real disturbed life himself, but tries to act like he's happy-go-lucky and everything is fine. He's clearly got some mental issues. He is like badly influenced by Deadpool, and allows Deadpool to totally change how he's going to live his life. And so he's like the embodiment of why you shouldn't pay any attention to anything Deadpool's saying.
I do think that's amusing because I do that all the time. Crawling from the back seat into the front seat.
Oh, do you really?
Flipping over. Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Climb back, give something to my kid, and then crawl back up.
I like and of course you expect this, but I think it's handled really well. I like how self-aware this movie is about the success of the first movie, and that's where a lot of the fourth wall breaking is going to at the beginning of this. That whole Passion of the Christ line just now I always thought was really funny, where it's like we beat them domestically but not worldwide. I think that's really funny. Like, it's managing to comment on how successful it has gotten without letting that in some ways affect it too much, although in some ways it's exactly the same tone and the same flavor and the same thing, and in another way it becomes oddly sterile. Like, my biggest complaint about this is that when we get to the end, it's too much of a happy ending. It's not really allowing itself to be tragic Deadpool anymore. And you can argue, well, the first movie is a happy ending too. Yeah, but within the disturbed bubble of Deadpool. And, like, yeah, there were compromises from the, initial source material that they're drawing from, that Eric and I argued were probably, and it bothered Eric more than it did me, but I think we both kind of agreed it was probably necessary for general audiences at all. Like, it could have tried to even be a lot more accessible than it was. It was nice that it let itself go to as dark and raunchy of places as it did. Like, Deadpool is not a hero. That's a good start. It's sort of like Constantine on television. You're not going to allow it to be exactly what it is in the comics because there's just not an audience for that. If you let Deadpool be, completely unsympathetic and a character who doesn't have empathy and doesn't understand empathy, even for a rated R franchise, it's gonna be arguably a lot harder to get enough people on board that you can make it viable. And this movie goes too far in the other direction, in my opinion.
Well, it would just have to be a very different thing. Like, the whole movie would have to be a different thing if he's not, because he's still a superhero in these two movies. Like, all intents and purposes, but not like if he was just a psychopath.
Yeah,
it would
exactly.
Be more like a slasher movie than a superhero movie. It'd be a totally different thing.
Well, it wouldn't. If you did what Joe Kelly did with it, which is the starting point they're making. I mean, Joe Kelly is the reason we have Blind Owl. It's the reason that we have the Vanessa relationship. He has that with somebody else in the comics, but a lot of the stuff that we're drawing from starts in that place. We're cribbing from other places as well. But if you were going to do that, DJ, it would be about a guy who lives in a superhero world who wants to be a superhero but does not understand empathy. So he's sort of like Data in Star Trek. He's not a human, but he wants to be human, and he's constantly working toward that. So Deadpool is a character in the comics who is constantly working toward like being a human being. And so it could still be a thing in the realm of superheroes. It just wouldn't. You're right. It would be a different thing, but it wouldn't be completely not a superhero movie. It would be as much of a superhero movie as the Wolverine movies are. It's just there would be less of an audience for it. I totally get why we didn't do that. I think taking him all the way to he's a straight up bona fide for real superhero now and probably not a mercenary anymore just because he had to put his heart in the right place so that he would be able to stay with Vanessa in the afterlife. Don't love that. Kind of have a hard time with that. And not just based on source material, based on that first movie.
Yeah, and I hate how they kind of even dumb the real superheroes down even more in this one, where they're like they're not even as good of heroes as he is. Like, he realizes that the kids are being abused, and like the other, they're just like oblivious, and they don't even. I don't know. I love the look. Obviously, I love what Colossus looks like in this. I love that we just go full Colossus, but I don't like what they turn him into.
I don't either.
So weird.
And I had a bigger issue with it the last time I watched it than I ever have before. I don't, because I feel like it kind of comes out of nowhere. I don't 100% understand why suddenly he is as influenced by Deadpool as he is. Now, I will say this scene is handled really well. I mean, like, it is wonderfully tragic the way we kill her. You might argue that, as you said, sappy as we get with the baby talk and everything, the timing is convenient. It's kind of the obvious thing to do. But once we
that's...
get there, I feel it. I mean, I'll give it that. A lot of that, though, is because I love that relationship in that first movie. DJ, one of the reasons that I like that first film as much as I do is because I think it's one of, if not the best superhero romance we've ever had. And I think that's really impressive because it's as raunchy as it is. That, like, I found these two, like, not just did they have good romantic and sexual chemistry, but I thought that they were, like, legitimately charming as a couple. And they just lived in a different, moral world than I do. And so, you adjust yourself to that, and then you can appreciate their relationship. Daniel Davis says Deadpool needs to have a world of pain and misery. Yeah, and it may be that when we finally get to a third movie, which is going to be weird because now it's the MCU and who knows where it goes from here.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about that.
And if it's technically, and I've got a lot at this point to say about that. And if it technically will even be in the same continuity, although I'm sure even if it isn't, Deadpool will talk about all of his fourth wall breaking memories of his previous franchise. It might be fun if it was, by the way, a straight up reboot where he remembers that he has been rebooted, like he does with the Deadpool at the end of Origins in this movie. I think that could be really fun. I've got some things to say later about what I would like to see from them.
Cool. Yeah, that'll be something to talk about.
So you could still go really tragic in your next film, but we're kind of doubling down on, like, by the end of this movie, now, I don't want to say more wholesome, of course, but, like, now it's just a happier thing. Like, he gets everything
it's
he
a
ever
feel-good. They want to go for that feel-good movie.
It's too much of a
walking
feel-good
out of the
movie,
theater. Yeah.
in my opinion. Especially because it's not telegraphed well enough. With the way this opens, I really don't want it to go there.
Well, and I would say even before that horrible mid-credit scene, it's too much of a feel-good movie. But that mid-credit scene is horrendous, and I know we'll talk about that.
It's horrendous. Yeah, I'm glad you agree with that because otherwise it was going to be a bunch of me and you arguing about. I argued about this with my wife the other day, and she was defending it. I was not having it, man. I can't deal with it. Psycho Reviewer, the reboot idea is great. I actually hope they do that. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think it could be really cool.
This is cool. I don't remember. Did they do this in the first one where it's like a James Bond?
No. Mm-mm. No, in the first one, it's that hilarious, slow motion moving around the guys that Deadpool is stabbing to death.
Yeah, and it's like there's kind of like jokes in the names. Yeah, I remember that now.
And yeah, I like the 007 parody here. I think it looks really good, and I think they had a lot of fun with it. I don't like the credits themselves as well.
They're going with that classic. They're going authentic with it, so they're keeping the. Oh, you're saying what they say?
Yeah, I'm just saying the credits themselves they're not as funny as last time around, and like I said, I feel like they're giving themselves too much credit and acting like they're being I don't know, braver or more edgy or something than I think they are. Like I said, this bugged me in the theater where they're like, look at us, we killed her. Like, can you believe it? Yes, I can. I don't know, that didn't surprise me at all. At least Vanessa didn't leave him between movies. I really hate it when we do that.
Oh yeah, that would have been the worst.
Vicky Vale. That would have been terrible. Directed by one of the guys who killed the dog in John Wick, though, is hysterical. That I laughed at really hard in the theater.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Real quick,
that's
Thompson
awesome.
Gave us a $5 super chat. Do you consider these movies part of the X-Men series like the Wolverine films?
Oh, was that a super chat?
Yes.
Thanks for the super chat. Let me answer that in just a second.
Yeah, sure.
The first thing I want to go to before that, though, just because we're looking at it, two things. First of all, the running gag of "Can you build a snowman?" Papa, can you hear me? Is fantastic. I think that's hilarious, and that feels like a thing that probably came from a personal experience place. It was probably just Ryan Reynolds either on set or before this movie, like just thinking about that, like a thing that he thought of, and I like jokes like that you just kind of pull from your own head. because Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool are so close to the same person that he can do that. He can just throw in anything that occurs to him, and it works for Deadpool. It's great. But he does look slightly more... His face does look slightly more messed up and scarier. I think they did a little bit this time to the makeup, or maybe it's just that we get it more in close-ups than we did before, or that the lighting is better. But it bugged me in the first movie that everybody is like so repelled by it, and it's just not that gross looking. Like, go back to the Spawn movie from '97, he's grosser looking than Deadpool is. And again, I can't help but compare it to source material, where I'm like, well, in the comics, he looks way more screwed up. But everybody's looking at him in this like, oh my god, your face, I can't. And then we even do it with Domino later, where she's like, I'm not looking at your creepy baby legs, I'm looking at your face. And I'm like,
no, you would absolutely be looking at the legs.
You would be looking at the legs. Yeah.
He just looks like a bald guy with like sunburn. Like he doesn't even look that bad.
No more speaking lines for you is awesome. I love that. That's that guy that Vanessa calls Fat Gandalf in the first movie. And we see him here again, and now he's got a token speaking line, and he sounds like he's from Alabama, and Deadpool's like, no. I'll get to that super chat in a second.
Yeah.
But I just keep noticing things I want to make sure that we talk about. I do not like that visual gag. I don't like it at all. Please don't do that. I was worried going into this that we would do that kind of thing. Too many callbacks to gags or repeated jokes from gags from the first movie. I'm not saying you can't do it at all. If you do it, I want to build on it before it's just, here's a joke everybody thought was funny, so we've got to rely on those. I was really hoping this would be better than that. I was actually kind of impressed that Guardians 2 hardly did it. And this movie, in comparison, does it a lot more. Now, going back and watching it again recently, it was less than I remembered, but I think the couple that stuck with me are enough that it still bugs me a little bit. It's not as bad as I thought it was. Doing the whole cocaine next to the cure for blindness thing, I don't like that. It's going too far. Like, I'd be fine with... There actually really was cocaine under the floorboard, but the fact that he went far enough to take a thing and label it The Cure for Blindness, just so that people watching the movie that remember the first one could go, I remember that joke. I don't like that. I am glad that Blind Al is back at all, because I kind of didn't expect to see her again.
Yeah, so, they're not living together, obviously, anymore. He's just going to visit her.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so folks in the comments are liking the Cure for Blindness gag. That's great. I didn't care for it. Okay, so do I consider this to be in the how was that worded? The X-Men series? How is it worded exactly?
Yeah. Do you consider these movies part of the X-Men series, like the Wolverine films?
Okay. No, but I don't consider the Wolverine films in the X-Men series either. So I like that these movies come right out. That sound effect is kind of amusing. I like that these movies come right out and say there's different timelines. In the first movie, he says, Stewart or McAvoy, these timelines are so confusing. And it just unabashedly goes, we can't keep up with the X-Men timeline. It doesn't really make any sense. Even after Days of Future Past, like, where exactly are we going to set it, right? Like, we basically now have to create... If we keep it in precisely the same continuity as where the X-Men movies are now that we've soft rebooted, I'm talking after Days of Future Past, because after that, they don't care either. But at where we were at this point when this movie came out, this is, if memory serves, the very next thing that happens. And you're like, okay, so either this has to be... I'm talking Deadpool, the first Deadpool. Either it has to be its own thing, or it has to be the first thing that is set in present day after Days of Future Past that is establishing the tone of that universe. So they were very smart to immediately go, here's a Colossus that looks and sounds entirely different from the one that you saw in the original X-Men films, in X2 and X3. and we're going to have Deadpool comment on the fact that it's confusing and we can't keep up with it. The Wolverine movies, and Origins kind of is this way too, have sort of the same thing. They don't comment on it, but especially by the time you get to Logan, it's like, we're going to cherry pick things. We talked about this when we did Logan. We're going to cherry pick things. We're going to say that certain things that you'll remember did happen, but ultimately it's its own thing. It's separate. It doesn't matter if it's in the continuity or not. And so this is very much, making its own continuity while commenting on the fact that that is a thing with the X-Men movies, but still, and I have so much respect for this, rooting itself in X-Men mythology. How easy would it have been for this to have pulled, and now I'm just talking about this as a franchise, but it would have been really easy for this to have pulled a Venom and just gone completely its own way and not been related to X-Men at all. I like that they were cool enough to try that. And you could say, well, maybe they felt like they needed to because more people know what X-Men is in 2016 than know what Deadpool is. But it would have confused people because it doesn't look like those movies and it doesn't have hardly any characters from those movies. It seemed like it was Ryan Reynolds and those guys going, we like the material in the comics, we like X-Men, we want it to still be connected to that. And so I appreciate that we have continued that on. And the trainee thing is really good. It looks like we just live in a world that revolves around the X-Men, and it's very comic booky, and I like that a lot.
Yeah, that's the best thing about this movie for me. And I don't care that much, but I don't like the cameo with the X-Men because I liked that it was completely separate and like it only used characters and the characters that it did use that were from that universe were completely different. Like I don't like using the exact characters from Apocalypse right here.
That's a fair point. I guess I just appreciated the gag of it, but you're right. Because one of my favorite jokes in that first movie is the studio couldn't spring for more X-Men, so of course he opens the door and they're all there, and so that just as a gag is funny. But you're right. That does kind of confuse things, and I don't want to be thinking about it. I'd rather this just be its own thing. Yeah.
I don't even want to try to explain how this could exist in the same universe.
No, and we don't need to. And you can say it doesn't, and they're just. And then another way you could look at it if you really wanted to. This is a stretch, and I don't like this, but we're gonna have precedent at the end of the movie for fourth wall breaking gags that are visual now instead of just Deadpool talking, and I don't like that. I don't like that we did that, but because we did that, and because it doesn't make any sense internal logic wise, I'm gonna have a speech about internal logic at the end, so everybody bear with me on that. You could make the argument, I guess, that when he opens that door, they're not actually there. That's just a gag for the audience. That's just Deadpool making a visual gag. I don't like that, but I guess you could make that argument based on what happens with the going to different, what have to be dimensions with a time travel. We'll get there. Stussy says, I don't mind since it's supposed to be a joke. And that's the rub for me is I just have a really hard time with that with a couple of the jokes in this, and we'll talk about that. But one of the things I really appreciated about the first movie was it had a real rigid internal logic. It didn't rely on, well, it's supposed to be a comedy so we can get away with anything we want to, with the exception of Deadpool doing the fourth wall breaking thing. But you notice in the first movie, that never has anything to do with story. Like whenever he's talking about other movie franchises that can't exist with this, and he's talking about Hugh Jackman and Wolverine, and he's talking about Ryan Reynolds like he's a separate person, and all of that stuff. That's all for the audience. Even when he's talking about that kind of stuff with other people there, nobody else ever notices it. It's like he didn't say. He might as well not have said that. And we are veering a little bit farther into it's affecting the internal logic of the film territory. Pardon me. By the time we get to the end of this.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the end of this, and what you alluded to earlier, I don't buy, and we'll talk about it, where Cable gets to at the end at all.
No. That feels real rushed and tacked on, and just happy ending for the sake of a happy ending.
Yeah.
And again, if you want to be, and this would be weird for a sequel to a movie that actually had a story, but if you want to be a straight-up farce, and I'm not supposed to take you seriously at all, it's easier to get away with that kind of stuff. But we're still from the beginning of this movie trying to tell a real story, just like we were with the first. So, Deadpool trying to use Cerebro is kind of amusing, because it's supposed to kill anybody that isn't psychic or not psychic enough. Like, you're not supposed to be able to use it, but nothing can really kill Deadpool. So the question is, does it just not work at all because he's not psychic, where he's just got it on his head? Maybe it's not even plugged in. Like, is it doing
I assume
anything?
It's not even plugged in because he's like sitting on the couch.
Yeah. Well,
I assume he just has the helmet. Oh, there's some electricity coming out of it.
So did he go into the big round room and rip it out and bring it in there? Like, that's weird.
Maybe that was just like a spare that he found laying around.
We are clearly not meant to be thinking about that. What do you say?
This is the scene on the second viewing. Like I said earlier, I liked this coming out of the theater. I liked this way more than the first. But then watching it earlier today, I was like, man, what was I thinking? I'm not enjoying this at all. And this is the scene where I'm like, oh, now this is what I like. This is where the movie really picks up for me. Like I said,
which is funny because this is where it slows down to a crawl for me. I'm kind of. I mean, I think the whole first half is a little bit draggy. So particularly when we get into the prison. Again, I like the thing with the trainee uniform and all of that. I'm just not as sympathetic toward Fire Fist ever as the movie is wanting me to be. The movie is right in the message that I like this, that you shouldn't give up on children, and it's not too late for any child, even if they go as far as they're about to kill a person. Like, a lot of mental disorders that you can diagnose in adults, it does not make sense to diagnose in children. Like, they're not there yet. Their brains are still malleable. And this movie is about that, and I really like that. However, it also seems to be kind of working under the logic that a writing mentor of mine in college said to me that I've never bought, which is children are inherently sympathetic. No, they're not. Sorry, they're not. And I don't find myself caring as much about this kid as I think I'm supposed to.
Okay, interesting. I don't think I ever cared about him, but I liked what it did to Deadpool, and I like Deadpool caring about him, and I feel like he would, because But
I wish it wasn't about getting Vanessa back. I wish that came from a more authentic place, because he's got he I don't know, he's too self-motivated to do that, and you could argue, well, but it's he has to authentically have his heart in the right place to get back to Vanessa, so it has to be more than just he wants to get with his wife back in heaven. So and if his heart's not actually in the right place, then that wouldn't happen. So you can say, well, he does genuinely get there. Yeah, that's true, but I kind of wish he just naturally got there. I kind of wish that he just related to this kid in the first place. When he early on says, I don't care about that kid at all, I think he means it. And as much as I'm complaining that the movie gets too sappy and that Deadpool becomes too much of a hero, at the same time, this is a Deadpool that does experience empathy, and I feel like he would this version would this kid would resonate with him. He would relate more to this kid early on. He only starts to when he's got a personal stake in it. I have a hard time with that.
Okay, yeah, we'll talk about that a bunch, because I think I have a different read on that prison scene than you do. But no, getting back to what I said was I really like this just because of what you said, how comic book this is. This is crazy. The news people are just standing there talking, hey, the X-Men are here, and they're fighting.
Here's the X-Men.
It's crazy. We've never 20 years in Marvel movies, and we've never got this comic booky, I don't think, where it's just X-Men are on a mission, and the news people are just talking about it on the news.
And with the matching yellow uniforms, the first movie was getting us there.
Yeah.
It was already well on its way.
I don't like that gag as much as most people do, because people who do superhero landings usually have super strength. It's Wonder Woman, it's Superman, it's Spider-Man, their muscles would be able to absorb that. It's not a big deal.
I don't like it either, but for me, I have the same thing Eric does with it, where it just seems like too much of a generic parody thing, where it's we've had superhero movies mainstream for general audiences for so long by the time we get to these movies that you don't have to go to so much just, generic, this is a broad thing we do in every superhero movie thing. Like, we do some specific stuff, but maybe not enough. I don't know. That strikes me as kind of generic.
Yeah, that could be in superhero movie.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. See, you always just take things that I take like 5 minutes to say and then articulate them in like a really condensed... Yeah, it's great. So this will be one of 3 times that we tease Sinister without ever getting to him in the Fox X-Men movies. One of 3, you guys!
I want that. I want him to keep that up. I want it to be the... Isn't there something in the Marvel Universe, MCU, that does that? Was it Adam Warlock? Yeah, we've teased Adam Warlock twice. I want that to keep going. And in
contradictory ways. They have nothing to do with each other. Other things I don't love about this particular section, the X-Men, or the kind of like the triumphant superhero theme that we get. I forget who composed this. It's on the tip of my tongue. Was it Tyler Bates? This might be a Tyler Bates score. That theme is, again, really generic, and if we're doing X-Men stuff anyway, especially since we saw the Days of Future Past cast, or I guess the Apocalypse cast, because that's filming at when this is filming. Couldn't we use one of the previous X-Men scores? Like, it wouldn't even have to be X2. Obviously, I would have loved that. Like the plane starts to land, da-da-da-da-da, like, we can't do that. Or we can't at least use the one from the first one? I don't know. That might have been nice. And then the other thing, I might as well go ahead and start talking about this now. And I've complained about this before, but one of the big plot holes for me with this movie, I've never quite understood this, is the kid begs to be taken to the icebox. He doesn't want to go back to the Essex house because the headmaster tortures him. And he says, any place is better than here, take me to the icebox. And then Deadpool murders those guys in cold blood. And then they're both at the icebox. I don't understand that. Like, what has changed? Right? Like, they're gonna send the kid back to the Essex house, and because Deadpool murdered people, the kid now goes with him to this prison. What am I missing?
I don't know.
I don't understand. And then we have that typical movie trope where we put them both in the same cell together, which is never, ever what would happen.
It's the end of Daredevil, the movie.
Yep.
Where they're just sitting in the same cell.
Like, I don't think they would be anywhere near each other, much less in the same cell together. Why do we always do that?
I guess I don't know. Like, how do prisons... I have no idea how the icebox works, but are you there, like, with the most other recent criminal? Or is it divided up some other way?
Blue Dragon 5 says Deadpool tried to kill the kid's abusers. Yeah, I know, but I still don't know why the kid would go with him to prison, then. Like, it's not like they shut down the Essex house. So if memory serves, the guy on the right is Alan Tudyk.
Oh.
And then the guy on the left is one of the biggest actors in Hollywood, and I cannot remember now who it is because he's he disappears so much in makeup I can never remember who that is. Somebody's going to tell me. I always forget.
Yeah, let us know. I didn't even know. I thought those were just, like, extras. I love that he doesn't want to know the year that badly that he doesn't get annoyed and just kill them or whatever he does to them.
He just tases them. Yeah, that's what, it is Matt Damon. Thank you. Thanks, Stasi.
What?
Yeah, I just
That's
couldn't
Matt
remember.
Damon?
I didn't go look
Matt
it up.
Damon
I
has
was
made
like...
2 appearances on Marvel Mania Phase 2.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Brad Pitt's going to have his 2-second appearance later, which is great.
Yeah, which could have probably been just taken from a picture. They could have made that.
Maybe, but he wanted to be in it. So that's why they did that. Like,
oh, really?
I think so. I think he asked to get a cameo.
That's cool.
That's what I've heard anyway. Solar Dragon, hey Cap, do you think this Deadpool will ever get closer to the psychopathic characterization from Joe Kelly's one? No, I don't. Especially not that Disney's got a hold of it. They say that it's still going to be R-rated stuff and all of that, but if it's at all remotely connected to MCU, and just the fact that it's under House of Mouse, I don't buy that we'll ever have anything as sadistic as that. And that's not even my thing. I don't even know that I necessarily want it to go that far. I'm just saying I don't think it ever will.
Yeah. We got actually quite a few super chats. I knocked some out here if you don't mind. Mr. Roboto, I don't know what he means by this. He says, does this mean caroling, Cap and DJ? I guess we were talking about Christmas, maybe?
Oh, because we were talking about Christmas earlier? Yeah, maybe so.
Yeah, me and Cap will go caroling. Why not? Well, virtual caroling. We'll do a Zoom call.
Sure. We'll go after dark. We'll have swearing in our caroling. That's
swearing.
Blue Dragon 5, the icebox is for criminals with mutant powers, Cap. Russell opted for prison because he was a danger and opted for it. Yeah, but when he said he wanted to go there, it seemed like they weren't planning on taking him. Like, it didn't seem like he had a choice in the matter. I think there was a line or two cut, and what you're picking up on, they expected the whole audience to pick up on, and maybe it really was supposed to be that. I think it's inconclusive. I don't think that's clear enough in that scene. And I think that is likely to be an example of something that was made as explicit as it should be in a script that got, or a scene that got cut up for the sake of time.
This is not a big thing. I'm just curious if you've thought about this at all. How in the world does that necklace work?
Well, it's called a plot device, DJ.
I know.
It's a MacGuffin. So the way it works is
I can imagine a pill working, or like
if you
cure,
wear
like
it, your powers don't work.
Thank you. I'm so lost.
That's the logic.
But like, how does an electric thing on your neck like genetically? Because it's in your genes.
And if you type in 7, it comes off. We'll get there, obviously, but I love Domino so much, I wanted her to get a spin-off.
Yeah, she's great. She's really good in this.
But yeah, the collars go all the way back. It's crazy that we haven't done those that much in the X-Men movies. I think we had them in X3, maybe? Am I right about that? Didn't they have inhibitor collars in that, too?
I don't know. I know they had the cure that they were just shooting people with.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
They had, like, darts they were just shooting people with the cure.
Yeah, maybe they didn't. Maybe this is the first time we get that. But yeah, those are in the X-Men cartoon, and I'm sure in their comics and stuff.
Yeah, guys, I know what it is. Everyone's telling me what it is. I think it's funny.
Solar Dragon. I can't read that on air. Mutale, the super duper cut has more Russell scenes. Yes, it does. I have not watched that more than once, so I can't speak a ton to it, but I have always said that the definitive cut, the Black Tom joke, I love. The whole ongoing racist thing, it's so funny. Anyway, you kill Black Tom.
What's your power? Cultural appropriation.
It's so good. Anyway, so what was I talking about? The super duper cut, I don't think is any more of a definitive cut than this one. I think that there needs to be some conglomeration between the two, and you would have the best cut of this movie. I like all the scenes that are added back in, and I think it needs some of them, particularly the stuff that we actually get toward the beginning in the Essex house. This cut thinks that it's enough to flash back to it in that kind of slow motion black and white stuff we get toward the end, but when you actually establish Russell in the Essex house, it just feels a lot more complete. I think we need that. If memory serves, I think, like I said, I think we actually establish him there. I think we see him there before we see him outside of the house in that cut. But like a lot of comedies, it's mostly made to show you a bunch of alternate takes. And a lot of those takes, I don't think personally are as funny as what we got in this movie. They're not bad, they're just not as good. And a couple of them are funnier. And so, I don't know, there's a better cut to be made by putting those two movies together, but then And not the PG-13 version, because that's not a cut so much as just we took some stuff out and then we put some, amusing bookend on it. And I like that, and it's fun, but I don't think you need all three of them to put together. But I also think that because of subjective comedy, we would all probably make slightly different cuts if we were to put those two things together.
There should be a Deadpool maker for Nintendo Switch.
That's a great idea. Movie. Maybe not for Switch, but that's a great idea.
Make your own movie.
He's African American. That's really funny.
I mean, we can all make our own movie. We have editing software, but it's just not that. It's not that simple as Mario Maker.
Tyler Thompson, I didn't realize that that might have anything to do with why we brought Juggernaut into this. He says, I love the Black Tom Juggernaut team up in early Claremont. The new X-Men fighting Juggernaut in an Irish castle without Cyclops to lead was awesome. I have not read that stuff, and I'm sure that has something to do with why they're both here. That's cool.
Yeah, and
and Blue Dragon 5 said that's deep pulls from Deadpool's solo series days. And now that you say that, I do remember Black Tom being there. Yeah. I'm sorry. I talked over you. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say Juggernaut in this is one of the other things that's just like straight off the page, except for his costume, because he's not wearing his costume, but straight off the page comic book Juggernaut's so comic booky.
That's great. It's great that he's as big as he is. A part of me wishes that the opening credits had been more like they were in the first movie, where we just kind of altered them. So the first movie said a CGI character, and this one could have said 2 CGI characters.
Isn't he voiced by Ryan Reynolds too?
Oh, I didn't know that. If that's the case, that's like a Doctor Strange thing. Ace versus Knight. The inhibitor collar was used in X-Men: Days of Future Past, but just as an Easter egg. You're right. I forgot about that. We see that in the opening scenes in the future. That's right.
Oh wow.
Mohammed just put in a $2.79 Canadian super chat just for the heck of it. Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
DJ, do you want to go back, because I think there's a couple super chats that we've missed, or
we got a super chat from
not done yet.
Draco Aries, $5 super chat. While I think that the first film is better, I like the sequel a bit more than the first. Also, I love the My Little Pony and the Lion King reference.
What's the Lion King reference?
He says something about a movie starting with a death, and then he names a bunch of movies.
Yes. No, that's a great gag. Yep, I'm with you. He's like Bambi, and and he knows well, what I was going to say is, he's making a lot of Disney references, I think, because of MCU. He's doing a lot more MCU jokes, and it's going to get really amusing moving forward, because now they're the same thing. Now he is in Disney things.
Yeah. And then another one, Mr. Roboto says, it's time travel cap. It happens. Best to let it be. So he doesn't even want to try to.
That's what. There's always somebody that comes in and says that whenever I try to make any sense out of time travel logic, but I think it's important to have rules.
TH1, $5 super chat. Deadpool should have said Colossus had buns of steel in that scene. Great show tonight. So he's adding jokes. Thanks, Tom.
Oh, thanks, Tom. Appreciate it, buddy. Stephen Murphy, Black Tom was supposed to be a bigger part, but the writers felt that there were too many antagonists in the story and that the budget would be better spent on a character such as Juggernaut. I agree with them, not knowing what they were going to do with him. I mean, if you saw that script or there was a cut that utilized him a lot more, I could be made to disagree. But I like Black Tom just kind of being the butt of jokes in this. And I'm surprised I'm saying that, but there are a lot of characters. And I did find myself going, I kind of thought we'd do more with that guy before we killed him off, but I ended up not really missing him. And I think it was made more fun by the fact that that joke continues on post-mortem. And so his reason for being seems pretty clear. Do you buy that Deadpool doesn't immediately die without his powers?
Yeah, he's still really, like he gets stabbed.
No, that's not what I mean. I mean the cancer. I feel like that should have killed him in like a minute and a half. I don't know if he should have been able to survive that at all.
Cancer works pretty slowly. I don't know. I don't know how it works. I guess his cancer was just paused, so it's still in the same where it was right before
you may be onto
started.
Something there, yeah.
So it wouldn't. It's not like it all catches up to him as soon as he stops having powers. I don't know.
So, about a year ago, I would have said the BVS and DC Universe jokes, about how, like, unnecessarily dark that is, really date this movie already. And then Birds of Prey came out and was just doing all the same stuff that the early dark DCU movies were doing for no reason. So, no, it's still relevant.
Well, and because of the Snyder Cut,
it's still relevant.
Stayed relevant in the cult. Like, it's
That's
still
true.
Like, you can't even. They lucked out with that.
Yeah, it's still like that. I mean, they've got some movies now that are lighter, but they're also. It also doesn't matter if they are even in that continuity, and if the Snyder Cut does well, HBO seems, or Warner seems very interested in. I guess I should say AT&T, because people like to make fun of me and say that I'm a shill for AT&T for some reason. But it was AT&T that came in and was like, "Hey, maybe we can make a lot of money out of this and make it a thing." And so they're hoping it will perform. They're hoping that they can bring the Snyderverse back into being. I think so. It could remain really relevant.
Strangling him with his own arm. So we haven't talked about oh goodness, his name just escapes me right at the moment that I was going to bring him up. Thanos.
What, Brolin?
Yeah, Josh Brolin. He's amazing. He's always good.
Yep, he's always good. He's one of those guys that doesn't disappear in roles, but he's got a lot of range also. You know what I mean? Where, like, you know, you can always tell it's him, and he's always doing his Josh Brolin thing, but he's not playing the same character every time either. You know, he's somewhere in between, like, a Will Smith and, who's the guy who played the Kingpin, who, like, disappears in everything he's in. He's somewhere in between. D'Onofrio. He's somewhere in between those guys.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about it, but there's a lot of similarities between him and MCU Thanos. His daughter and everything.
Well, that's true, yeah.
Now, see, so this scene here, I read it differently than you. I thought he sees Fire Fist come in, and that's why he says that thing about him, so he'll leave, and he won't get killed. But maybe not.
Well, you may be right about that.
Because as soon as he says this, he runs away, and see, I thought he knew.
I think I missed that glance. Yeah. No, I think you're right. I didn't notice that glance. Okay. Okay, that makes it better. So the idea is he does sympathize with him, but he's got that almost Wolverine complex of anybody I'm around gets. That's what. Okay, I read it wrong. I read it completely wrong. No, okay. It's the Vanessa thing, right? It's I blame myself for Vanessa's death because I was being a mercenary, and that led people to my house, and she's dead because of me, and when I'm around people that I care about, they get hurt, so I can't mentor this kid because of that, even though if I did, he may not grow up and become a supervillain. Well, I'm glad we did this commentary before I wrote a rewind on it.
Well, glad I can help. I'm good at noticing glances. That's one of my specialties.
Yeah, thanks, man. That is not me changing an opinion. That is me understanding it correctly. That is clear. He wouldn't have that glance if that weren't the case. That glance is really important.
Got it.
Really is. But I mean, that's great because like his heart's still not in the right place because he's not gonna try to actually help the kid. It's not enough that he saved him that one time. He's got to save him from himself. He's got to essentially be the father figure. Which is twisted, but that's what he's got to do.
Yeah.
Which we'll talk about when we get to the end, because I think I think the time travel thing with Cable kind of ruins that whole thing.
How did he just jump out of water?
He's Deadpool. He said earlier he's Batman, so I guess he's got the I'm Batman thing, because he said I'm Batman, so that's how he did it.
He just like came flying out of water.
I don't know how he did that. I think TJ Miller might be going a little bit too far here when he goes, I don't know what the word selfless means. When he's like, I literally don't know what that means. I don't know about that joke. And I don't think overall he's as funny in this as he was in the first one. He's got a couple of moments, but I laughed at probably 80% of what he said in that first movie, and I did not have that with this.
Yeah, we could talk about sense of humor. This is a good time to talk about that because he's here and he's just giving a monologue right now. Some of this lines up more with my sense of humor, obviously, than Ragnarok. Like there is some of that slapstick kind of humor in this, but it's obviously not as much. But the kind of wordplay, like language, and I don't mean profanity, I mean like
a lot more of it's banter.
Wordplay used. Yeah, like that's totally my kind of thing. Sarcastic
Quips.
characters like this, and understated things like that. That's totally my bag. Obviously, I don't know how obvious it is. I don't know if you know this about me, people in the comments, but I don't. The raunchy stuff doesn't work, because I'm kind of a wholesome family movie guy, as people know, because I like goofy movies, but I don't the raunchy stuff doesn't really work for me, but definitely the understated stuff, especially the scene
either, of course, but I'm able to look past it if the story's good and if there's enough stuff that comedically tickles my sensibilities. And that's why I was as surprised as I was that I enjoyed that first movie as well as I did, and that I laughed as often as I did with it. Those opening titles had a lot to do with winning me over in that first movie. I'll just say that real quick.
Yeah, I kind of have the same thing with this movie as I do with Always Sunny in Philadelphia, because it goes to those raunchy places, but it's also super funny for me in other ways. I do remember this going on longer. We spend very little time in this prison. I didn't realize he just gives him one pudding cup, and then he's like his best pal.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's just because we're talking over it, because a couple days ago when I watched this stuff dragged really hard for me.
Okay. Because he gives him this one pudding cup, and then they get moved right after. Man, I got a cough, sorry.
Some people in the comments saying they like the raunchy stuff as long as it's funny. I can agree with that to some degree. Like, just for the sake of itself, like potty humor and stuff, just fart jokes and stuff, it does not make me laugh just in and of itself. Sometimes a really well-placed profane word can get me, though. It just depends on the joke and where it's used.
Yeah, the raunchy stuff doesn't bother me at all. Like Cap said, it doesn't make me laugh.
And sometimes it gets intrusive, but it's also par for the course for a thing like this. Like, you certainly expected it. I do think that this particular movie has to try really hard to top itself, and I kind of wish it wasn't doing that as much. I guess it could have been a lot worse, but I'm just saying, like, you just did this 2 years ago, and you're making a big deal out of how you're doing a rated R superhero parody in a time where we're not even doing a lot of superhero parody anymore. Like, believe it or not, I think Deadpool was filling a much needed void. I missed superhero parody. I wish it didn't have to only be adult stuff, but I mean, my favorite superhero stuff in the 90s was parody stuff. The Tick is superhero parody. Like, I missed that. And so that's maybe one of the reasons that I appreciated that first movie as much as I did as well. But after you have done that and you make a sequel, it's hard to top yourself. It's hard to make people squirm or be grossed out or whatever any more than you did the first time around without taking it way too far. And there are a couple places where I think they really succeed. I will say that the acid joke a little bit later, that's pretty messed up. That's pretty gross. They succeed pretty well with that, because like, again, I'm not getting off on how gross that is, but it's funny. The fact that there's a wind advisory and the entire team dies, that's really funny. Like, I love that. You did a team-building movie, and you killed off almost the entire team. That's fantastic. I didn't see that coming. It's fantastic.
I really like the joke that just happened, where he says, guys, he's like, oh, cool. So you got the power to...
the pulse of the nation!
Pulse of society. That's what makes me laugh.
And there she is. There's Domino.
Yeah, I think this goes on way too long, and I don't think it's very funny, but she's great in the whole movie.
It's maybe too long, but I think nearly every one of these on their own is funny. The Vanisher thing is great.
Oh yeah, I'm just
like,
talking about
the Vanisher. Oh, I thought you meant just this whole sequence where they're interviewing people.
I always love this scene.
Okay.
Sky High, I love this scene. Mystery Men, I love this scene. Anytime you're having auditions for superheroes.
I was gonna say, we do this a lot.
It's a great scene. No, I was just talking about them going back and forth, saying yes and no. Peter.
What do you think of the Peter joke? What do you think of just a like middle-aged guy walks in?
just having like a crisis. I wish I kind of like filled in. I don't know. Do you guys have this with comedies where you like fill in jokes in your head? I remembered him saying like his wife wanted him to get out of the house and meet some friends, which I thought was funny, but that's not in here.
Well, and I was going to say maybe it was in a trailer, but you don't watch trailers, so I don't know.
Yeah,
there
like
are
that.
a couple of jokes that were in the trailer for this, by the way, that wound up in the Super Duper cut that are funnier than what we got in the movie, but they end up being some of the only jokes I thought were actually funnier than what we got here, so I had seen them already. So I was like, oh, all right. I can't remember what it is. There's a joke he has when he gets riddled with bullets where he's got the knife or the sword, we're going to get it here in a minute, where he's like deflecting all the bullets, and then the gag is he got hit by most of them, and then in the movie he just goes, ow. But in the trailer he had a really good joke, and I can't remember what it was, but I was disappointed that they didn't use it. Yeah. Maybe somebody can remind me.
Yeah, that's where they completely remake the scene from Origins, where he does all the same moves.
Lewis, thanks for the $5 super chat, or £5 super chat, I should say. But DJ is not watching The Mandalorian because he's not a Star Wars guy.
Yeah, sorry, Lewis. He asked me how did you find the recent episode of Mandalorian? I don't know. I didn't find it.
I talked about it the other day, but I'll just say it's great.
Good. I'm glad it's good. TH1 gives us a $2 super chat. Says this movie could use a bit more Thanos. LOL. I don't know if he means the character or if he just really
I'm sure he
likes
just means
Brolin.
Brolin. If you mean Cable, I think Cable is used exactly the right amount.
Yeah, I think he's good.
But I mean, Cable is such a wooden kind of character. And they try to play it for comedy with this, where like he is, the straight man in the room when he doesn't get comedy, and a little of that for me in a thing like this goes a long way. That's not to say that you can't have an actual straight man, but I wouldn't describe Cable as a straight man. I would say that he's a different kind of comedy, where like they make him over the top in a different way. If there's such a thing as stoic over the top, that's what that is. If that makes any sense at all.
Yeah.
And we almost make him a cartoon character by the end.
I appreciate they didn't go like the Drax route and
where he's just an idiot.
Where he just I like that line too. Where he doesn't he doesn't completely not understand humor. He just doesn't think it's funny.
Yeah, Mutali and some other folks have brought this up, so I'll go ahead and talk about it now. But yeah, apparently Brolin didn't really like doing this that much for whatever reason.
Well, it works perfectly with his character.
Like, he really liked being Thanos, but he didn't care for being Cable. And I don't know if it's just a makeup thing, although I think he's done a lot of makeup. Like, I would imagine it's that. But maybe it's just having to be that, rigid all the time. Because, yeah, he's really good at it, but I can see why that might just not be any fun. Or maybe he didn't like the script. Maybe Brolin has all the problems I do with this movie, and it made it not fun to play. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, we'll get into that. I do have your super chat, Tyler Thompson, but it's kind of a
Cycle Reviewer. Thing. That's exactly right. Cable isn't the straight man. He's the man that the straight man thinks is too wooden. Yep, that's exactly right. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
There's Tyler Thompson has a super chat, but it's kind of a topic that we might go on for a while. So I'll save it for a different spot.
Okay, cool. Just don't forget.
I got them all written down. They're right here. But this scene, we should talk about this scene.
I don't know if I have that much to say about the scene, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you kind of talked about it earlier. It's kind of just all of a lead up to a joke, except for Domino.
Well, that, and he's going to have his stirring speech about why he's going to name the team X-Force, where he's going to try to make X-Men into a sexist thing. Or did we already do that? Maybe he already did that.
Yeah, we already did that.
Yeah.
I do like that we have the backpack jump off on Invisible Man, the Vanisher, to confirm that he actually was a real thing.
Yep. Yeah, they just throw it out. Well, here's what's funny. Throwing out the backpack does not confirm that Vanisher is a real thing. It could just be Deadpool committing to that joke. We don't know for sure that Vanisher's real until we get the close-up of the pack upright floating.
No, you see it walking out and then it jumps, and it's got.
You see it walking out? I thought somebody just dropped it.
No, it jumped out behind him.
Oh, okay.
And you see, it clearly has a body in it because it's not like falling like a backpack would.
Well, then you're right. Stussy says, if the rumors are to be believed, this might have been a troubled production. Well, I think it's amazing that this movie turned out as cohesive and funny as it did, because it has the same problem, in my opinion, that Apocalypse does, in that, not any particular criticism, just in that you don't make a big movie like this 2 years after the last one with the same crew. You just don't do that. It's rushed. It's too fast. You can't tell me that everyone involved in this that was in the first movie is not hella burnout already. I don't believe it. I feel like Ryan Reynolds is working his butt off in this and trying really hard not to look as burnout as I feel like he must be. In the theater, there was a tension I felt like I was feeling from his performance, where it was like, almost like I got too much of what I wanted. And I hate to read too much into a performance, but I was feeling that. Where it was like, and then there's Brad Pitt, and he's dead.
Man,
and there's a puppet show at noon.
If Brad Pitt and Matt Damon want to be in these Marvel movies so much, why don't they just be in them? I'm sure they would let them be in them if they wanted to.
But I think if you do they might just be too busy with other projects. Like, it might just be, I've always wanted to do one of these, but I don't actually have time to do one of these. And also, they may want to be in them, but like doing a cameo just as a favor or because you think it would be fun is different than the contractual obligations of, I'm going to actually do a part for one of these movies, and they just might be too expensive unless they're starring in one.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Solar Dragon, I'm with you. I think the acid death is really funny. And yeah, I don't exactly know what Brad Pitt was working on right then, but they are surprisingly thoughtful about how the luck powers work.
Yeah, it's super cool. I will say, you said earlier they didn't go bigger with this one. There's a couple scenes where I think they try to do too much for their budget, and her walking, her like one take is one of those scenes.
That's
it looks
a good
really
point.
bad.
Nope, you're absolutely right. The scene we're about to get with her, where he says your powers, I love that line, by the way. Your power is not very cinematic, and then we're seeing all this stuff like falling around her, and she gets out unscathed. It doesn't look good.
Yeah, which is unfortunate because that's kind of the joke.
It's real rubbery and hurried, and
they just didn't have the time.
Stan Lee was on a mural there. I don't know if you noticed that, but that's the closest thing we get to a Stan Lee cameo.
Somebody said there was a Stan Lee bust in the mansion earlier.
I don't remember that. Lewis Cox, $2 super chat, says that Brad Pitt is the Sentry would rock. I've heard that for years. For whatever reason, I've heard people wanting him as that particular character for a long time. And I don't know enough about the Sentry to have a dog in that fight, but...
Yeah, that car looks crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, that sequence just looks kind of rushed, like they just didn't have enough time to work on it.
Yeah, they didn't have enough.
Because you could say, well, it's close-ups on things falling, the light and the car exploding and all of that in broad daylight, and every bit of it is CG. But I feel like if you had enough time to work on it, you could make it look better. There's a lot of stuff in that first movie that's CG that I didn't even think was, because was it Tim Miller? That director was used to making everything inside of a camera. And he wasn't into storyboarding. What he would want to do is make an entire movie in CG before he filmed a physical frame of it. Like, that's how he would make movies if money was no option. And because of his background in visual effects, he was able to make some things look real that were not there. Oh, Daniel Davis, I forgot that Brad Pitt was Megamind. Yeah. And he's great in that. I love that movie. It's spectacular. Accidental double entendres.
Lewis Cox says, with a $2 super chat, there should be a Thanos joke or two in this. He does call him Thanos. At
yep,
some point,
there is a Thanos joke.
There's one. Not really a joke, but...
No, it's a joke. It's just a referential joke.
Yeah.
The joke is he's about to play Thanos. I mean, that's the joke.
End of joke.
Yep. And if you don't know that he plays Thanos, you're probably just thinking, oh, he's calling him that because he's, you know, a big scary villain. But no, it's because he played Thanos.
That's true.
And a month apart.
There's those comic booky, like, splash pages.
Yeah.
He jumps through the door.
No, it's great. Have we already gotten...
What is the extent of her luck? That's crazy. The car, she could just let the car drive. And that's some pretty...
Yeah, she has fate powers, man. Like the universe just coalesces to her will.
That would be scary. That's like some Kilgrave level stuff. How is she not terrifying?
Because it would... No, because... I actually really like the way they play it, where she's just kind of indifferent and goes with the flow and expects things to work out her way because it's going to. I forget her name. This actress really gets this part, like, and is playing it like she wants to continue and get a spinoff, which is what I want. But she But I think it would be difficult to use it in the same way Kilgrave does to manipulate people. Like, you could use it to take advantage of people in that you could, like, you know, probably steal things and get away with it. Maybe you could murder people and get away. I don't know, but it's not manipulative in the same way.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I can't imagine having that power my whole life and not letting it get to me, where you would just, like, you could get away with anything.
Oh, so people are telling us the name of that actress, Zazie Beetz, also in the Joker movie. I didn't realize that was the same actress.
Oh, wow.
She's pretty good in that, too.
Oh, there goes Tom.
Mutali says, racist. I love that. It's so funny.
Yeah, and then the Black Tom joke turns into the racist joke. Like, he keeps going with that just because of that.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's Cable must be racist. And then I like that bit in the car where he's just like, I'm not a racist. It's pretty funny. I think we've already talked over the Rob Liefeld jab, but that's one of my favorite jokes in the movie, where he says it was... oh, yeah, because it's when she's doing all of her cinematic stuff, and he's saying that her power can't be a power and it's stupid, and he's like, it must have been come up with, or the person who came up with it must be somebody who can't draw feet, and in the theater, I just friggin' lost it. Because that's the kind... If you're going to do the fourth wall breaking thing, that's the kind of, like, almost deep pull thing that gets me excited. Because I've been talking about this stuff for years, and the big joke with Rob Liefeld is he can't draw hands or feet. I never expected to hear that gag in a blockbuster. Like, even though it's Deadpool and he breaks the fourth wall, I would have never expected to hear that. That's pretty cool. And that they're willing to make fun of him like that when he is, like, not directly involved with these, but they've kind of milked him in, like, you know, interviews and promotional things and stuff. Which I don't like, because he's technically the creator of Deadpool, but all of the actual character stuff that they're doing is Joe Kelly and some other people after him. And really does not have very much to do with him at all. Eric and I talked about that in the other Marvel Mania commentary on Deadpool.
TH1 gives us a $2 super chat. He says X-Force salute equals the Wakanda Forever salute. I didn't even realize there was an X-Force salute. What do they do?
They just make it X like that.
Oh, same thing. That's why he's saying that. Makes more sense here.
So, there's a lot of random but recurring Deadpool jokes that don't have anything to do with anything, but are just, to a lot of people, kind of inherently funny. Pandas is one of them. We do pandas in Deadpool a lot. Obviously, the chimichanga and taco truck thing is a big Deadpool thing, and unicorns. That would be maybe the trifecta of random, pointless Deadpool humor, although there might be a couple others that I'm not thinking of that should fit in that list.
I feel like unicorns are so ubiquitous at this point that they have, like, they're anti-random.
Yeah, that's pretty great. But yeah, I just think, like just biggest criticism with this, I think this is a script that probably needed another pass. And like I said, it's amazing that it turned out as well as it did because they could not have had the time they needed really to make this its best. And we've been talking about some of this already, but I just think some of the story points are pretty sloppy. And it feels like they spent a lot longer on that first movie. And this one, of course, is, even though, like I said, I appreciate that it doesn't look like they're suddenly throwing, like, $200 million at it, it is more ambitious than the first film. And you'd expect that, certainly, to some degree. So, I know I complain about this every time with things like this, DJ, but is there not a way to make the man's, like, real face inside of the helmet look less like it's CG? Because it is a real like a phase. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, could you not, like, film
I don't think
the actor
yeah.
and then put the helmet over his face? I don't know. In CG? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. That might be even harder.
Maybe so. I don't know.
Like, I mean, if it looks anything like Banner and Infinity War, please don't do that, because that looks horrendous.
Mutalia says there's no major big bad in this. That's true. Which is a very comic Deadpool thing to do. Where you kind of, like, bounce around from, adventure to adventure inside of the same story.
Yeah.
And we kind of do that with this.
So, what do we do with Deadpool's legs? They're just his legs there? Do they have no healing power?
I think she brings both of them... Or does she just leave the legs there?
Yeah, she just leaves the legs. Those are his arms, unless they're all jumbled in there somewhere.
Yeah, I don't think.
But he grows new legs.
I think they. Yeah, well, I know he grows new ones. I guess they just left his old legs there.
Well, even if he doesn't, I'm not saying like, even if she didn't leave them there, like, what are they? Like, will they just decay like normal legs? Is his healing factor only come from? Where does it come from? His heart? Why? Like, if he gets cut on his leg, it heals, but once the leg gets severed from his body.
You could do a stupid thing where there's now two Deadpools running around because like the legs could sprout the rest of him, and then you could have two Deadpools. I'm sure the comics do that somewhere.
Oh, Stussy says they bring it up in Once Upon a Deadpool.
Oh yeah, because they bring up a lot of the plot holes and issues. I forgot about that in Once Upon a Deadpool. In fact, there were a couple of things that I complained about in the spoiler cast that some people weren't with me on, and then Once Upon a Deadpool brought it up, and the people who made the film were like, these are things that we messed up. And I was like, yeah! And then I felt very vindicated.
I guess now that I'm saying that, like, in the beginning, he blows his whole body up, and his legs and arms go everywhere, and his head goes... So did he have to regrow from his head? When Colossus grabbed him?
Or are there, like, 10 Deadpools running around? So this is one of those jokes that just doesn't do anything for me. I don't find this funny at all. And there are jokes inside this scene that are great, but I find it tedious just having to wade through this where, like, Dopinder, is that his name? Trying not to throw up and stuff. It's not funny. I don't know.
Well, it just doesn't look good at all. That's probably part of it.
Even if it looked good, it wouldn't be funny to me. I don't know. Just like the whole I'm gonna sit here and not wear underwear and make everybody look at this. I don't understand why that's funny. But different things are funny to different people. This scene is not for me, and I'm very lucky that any of it is.
Yeah, I can't explain it to you.
I thought there was every chance I would walk into this after the first movie and find zero of it amusing and be like, oh, okay, so these really aren't for me, and I was just lucky with that first movie. But luckily that didn't happen. There's still plenty here that I found funny, so that's good.
Yeah.
And a lot of people in the comments clearly find this thing funny because they're quoting a lot of the stuff that I don't understand why it's supposed to be funny. Mutale, which is better, the Deadpool films, the Deadpool game? Well, certainly the films, although the script, while it's Deadpool, so saying overwritten might seem obvious, but or like a weird complaint for a Deadpool thing. But I do think even for Deadpool, that game is overwritten. But it's better than it has any right to be. I think the story and the script is better than what I've played of it. I never finished it, but I got, I don't know, 2/3 of the way through it, I think. Is better than the gameplay. I like everybody doing a one-liner at the same time. That's kind of like it's just Deadpool's world and everybody else is living in it. So it's like these movies go back and forth a little bit, where sometimes it feels like he lives in a not necessarily comedy world where he's the thing that's comedic, and sometimes it feels like the whole world around him is as much of a joke as he is. But that moment strikes me as everybody's been around him for so long. When you're with Deadpool, this is what you do. We just make fun of everybody. And I like that. And you could make the argument that because of that, some of the stuff later on with Cable is just Deadpool rubbing off on him, but I think that's a cop-out. I think I'm with you. I think he kind of turns into almost a different character at the end.
I think also that joke was... Part of that joke was that Cable said something that was just such a setup to get made fun of that they all just immediately jumped on it.
Yeah, exactly. You could almost see that in a regular movie.
Yeah. That was more of like him being unaware of how ridiculous he sounds.
that is one of the Weasel lines I actually like in this movie. It's a fanny pack and you know it. I also like, all I told him was everything he wanted to know. I like filtered her pain through a prism of humor.
We got a super chat from another one from Mohammed. Thanks, man. $6.99. If DC ever gets to Darkseid, how do you think they'll play him now that Thanos has been out?
Ooh, man, thanks so much for the super chat. I don't want to talk too much about that in the middle of doing a Deadpool commentary.
Yeah, maybe at the end we can.
Talk
about speculation stuff.
It's hard to speculate right now because I don't know what the future of that whole line looks like. I don't even know what continuity we're in anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I guess I sort of do with the Flashpoint thing. I would say, just real quick, they will likely try to get as far away from the Thanos thing as possible. I don't think they will attempt to make Darkseid a sympathetic character. I think they will try to make that the most evil and possibly one-dimensional thing you've ever seen. But I don't know. There's a lot of do the exact opposite of Marvel.
Mm.
I do like the dilemma here with Deadpool and Cable, where he needs time to try to appeal to Fire Fist, and Cable doesn't want to give him more than 30 seconds, and it's like, how do you do that in 30 seconds? And I can see it from both sides. I can kind of see why Cable doesn't want to compromise about this at all, and that it's all just about his family. And I like the parallel with his tragedy and Deadpool's. Like, I did not expect this scene. I didn't think we would get a place where they would come to any common ground, and I appreciate that we went there. But the fact that it gets that serious and turns into a real story again is part of what hurts the ending. Is that it's still a movie. It's not just a comedy.
Yeah, this one really has a tough time with the balance. So weird. Well, since we have nothing to say about this scene, TH1 just asks a question in the super chat. Thanks for the $2. You could have Googled this, but we appreciate the support.
Maybe it's a trivia question.
He said, is Wade the same actor as Hammer from Iron Man? No, that is Sam Rockwell, who is amazing and always good.
Yeah.
Oh, Sam Rockwell.
So even though nothing can stop the Juggernaut, we never actually see Juggernaut do his Juggernaut thing, which people complained about. It's weird to put Juggernaut in a movie, but he's not gonna run. Like, the whole point of Juggernaut is once he gets going, you can't stop. Nope, he's just a big killing machine.
He's just big.
Yeah, like, if I don't know why he even fights Colossus on his level. All he has to do is get away from Colossus, build up some momentum, run around the house once, and then you're done. Like, you can't stop. It seems like they just say nothing can stop the Juggernaut once because that's the big Juggernaut thing, but we don't actually see him do that, and anybody that isn't familiar with that character would assume that the Juggernaut's whole thing is just he's big and lumbering and has a helmet that keeps Professor X from getting in his head. Like, that's all you... So they remembered to remind us that he is Professor X's brother, and to make that clear, because I don't think it was an X3. I don't even know if in that continuity he even necessarily is Xavier's brother. Maybe not. They also made him a mutant, which is stupid. But everything about him in that is ridiculous. He's got an Australian accent for no reason. Like, it was a very, very strange. But with this, it's like
also broken out in a bus, in a truck. In the same kind of scene. That's kind of weird.
But at least he runs, and it's hard to stop him.
Yeah, I just assume he's like Mr. Incredible. He's just like big and strong and invincible, and that's what they mean when nothing can stop him.
Well, have you ever had this thought with Juggernaut? But that's why Juggernaut's supposed to be kind of scary. Like, have you ever had this thought with if Juggernaut is a mutant? So you're telling me that he was born with a power where if he runs really fast, nothing can stop him, but he doesn't have any durability, so he still has to wear a big helmet? Okay. That's a really lame power, right? Like... Oh, it's an English accent. Okay, Daniel. Well, I guess that makes more sense if he was Xavier's brother, although they sound like they're from completely different places.
There's no way he's that, because he's in the house when Xavier dies, and he doesn't even talk to him.
Maybe he doesn't know. Maybe they're secretly related. I mean, they are half-brothers after all. It is possible that you could have a half-brother and not know you had a half-brother, but...
Can we get a Parent Trap type movie where Juggernaut and Professor X go to camp, and they meet each other, and they try to switch places?
Could we get a Parent Trap movie where there are 50... like clones of Deadpool grown from his parts being blown apart, and then they all switch places, and it's like Deadpool Trap?
Yeah, someone earlier said it would have been great.
Alpha Flight reference. I always loved that.
Somebody earlier said it would have been great if his head grew spider legs. So now I'm imagining like all 10 of them are like just different.
Deadpool's got spindly legs.
Different forms of Deadpool.
That'd be great, but he's in a wheelchair, so even Steven. And we saw Deadpool riding around in one of those wheelchairs. I kind of love that they did that. Well, would this be not the worst time, DJ, for me to mention what I kind of want to see Deadpool 3 do, and what I think they might actually do?
Sure.
Okay, the last
Someone
time
just asked about it in the super chat.
Oh, cool. Well, so watching this the other day, I had this thought. I have huge issues with the end of this in the credits, and of course we'll talk about it when we get there. But because of the weird stuff we did with that, and it would have gone even farther if they had included the killing Hitler as a baby thing that's in the Super Duper cut.
Oh really? Wow, I would hate that because
the idea that Deadpool goes back in time and just messes up everything makes me think that, especially because we're having to kind of reboot and we're going over to Disney and Fox isn't its own company anymore and doesn't have its own X-Men movies. What if, I can't believe we're already at the third act. What if we used this as an opportunity to do Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe? I think that could be the direction. Where we do a Deadpool movie where he goes through the MCU and he kills everybody. And, of course, we reset it at the end in some way. But somehow that device is more than just a time travel device. Somehow, I don't know how that is, but it seems almost like it is in the credits of this, so it's not that far fetched. That he actually uses that device to somehow go to the MCU. The reboot is because of that, and also fourth wall breaking writers. He'd probably say that. But that's a notion. Or he could even use it to come into our world and murder people that are writing characters, because that's a thing he does at the end of Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe. He actually...
Right before you...
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Right before you started that, the Wolverine 1987 put in a $5 super chat. He said, would you like Deadpool 3 to be the rumored Deadpool Kills Fox Marvel Universe?
Oh, I didn't even realize that anybody had been talking about that. Cool. So this is not a unique idea I'm having here. Yeah, no, that would be different. I would think that they would be more likely to make it all about the MCU, like I'm suggesting. Having him kill the Fox universe is weird because you're just already at a place where nobody cares, and it was already kind of not a real continuity anymore. It was so all over the place. I don't know what that would even look like. And I'm not sure how many actors you could get to come back at this point.
Oh, yeah. That would be tough. It would basically just be killing the X-Men and killing the X-Men universe and then pick a Fantastic Four franchise that nobody cares about.
So this opera score is hilarious, and I didn't understand what was going on in it. I just wasn't paying that much attention to it until I watched through the credits, and they play it again in the credits without any action happening on screen. And so you get to hear all the swearing, and it's really funny.
Yeah. They really think this kind of thing is hilarious. They keep doing this.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, this whole like
it goes way too long.
Deadpool,
this one goes way too long. They do a lot of jokes where they're like, if we just keep going longer, then it'll get funny. Like, no, it doesn't.
Yeah. No, and we're calling back to the thing at the end of the first movie where he gets head trauma and then he starts hallucinating, and that one worked because it was kind of creepy and weird, and then this one was just, let's make like a, almost like gay love Deadpool Colossus joke. I don't know. I don't get it. I think it's made worse by the fact that he actually somehow gets to Colossus, and Colossus kind of drops some of his wholesome good nature at the end. And I don't know why that happens. I just don't think that really comes from a place. And now we have an obligatory CG character fight. And I think Deadpool made a joke about that, which is funny, but...
Yeah. He said, get ready for a CG fight or something.
That's right. Oh, hi, Connor. There's Connor in the comments.
Hey, welcome, man.
So, do you think anybody...
This is supposed to be the beginning of that, where he's like, I'm fighting Daddy! And he, gets brass knuckles and, punches him in the crotch.
Yeah, well, somehow Deadpool's already turned him around to a degree where he's before it's you should follow my moral code because my moral code is right. And, you should always be totally altruistic and not go against my principles. And then it becomes... okay, Deadpool, you're right. Sometimes you do have to fight dirty, and I don't really know how he got him there.
Well, that's a lot of this movie. Is just the same thing with Thanos. Just hanging out with them for a couple days is supposed to completely change you as a person.
This headmaster guy is cast right. He is freaky.
I like the joke later when they're both like, man, he even runs like a pedophile. Look at him.
Yeah.
This is the most gruesome scene, and there's a bunch of children over there, which I don't like.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But these children have already been abused, and they've seen worse. So.
I will say I like that we're doing a Deadpool movie that's got the, classic mutant bigotry thing in the background. Like, we don't even make the whole movie about it. Like, that's Fire Fist, whole problem, of course. And that bad guy is going to get his comeuppance at the end, but it's still not an X-Men movie. All of that reads to me like it's in the background. We just have to give him some motivation to be a villain in the future, and so that's where that comes from.
Can we all make a deal to never put that in a movie ever again? Where like,
what's that?
Two people are in a fight, and then like one of the good guys is someone's like right behind him, and they're about to get hit, and then the other person shoots them, and then they look at each other like. That happens in like every single one of these movies. Like,
I love this. I need a bus, and then there's a bus.
How does she flip it over though?
It was already flipped over.
I know it's upside down. How does she get it over to drive it?
Oh, that's actually a really good question. I didn't think of that.
Maybe Colossus just flips it over for her off screen.
I like that Evil Russell in the future will, and I guess he's getting it right now. Like, we're seeing his origin story playing out, and I think that's a really good idea. Where he like commandeers the Headmaster's catchphrase as his own.
No, if like
Twist
you said
around.
the super duper cut, they do the kills Hitler as a baby thing. That makes no sense because his whole thing in this is that you can't kill them when they're a kid. They can still be saved.
Yes, but that's where I get into my complaint about just doing jokes for the sake of jokes, and my not being able to criticize it at all because it's just a joke and because it's just in the after credits. And if all we did, well, I'll talk about when we get there.
What a weird way to kill Juggernaut. Of all the ways to kill Juggernaut, of course that's the way.
And that strikes me as a thing you wouldn't even think to do if you didn't know you were in a Deadpool movie. Like, my issue with that is if Deadpool came up with it, okay. But they have to do, like, a moonshot and then, like stick a thing up his rear just because it's a Deadpool movie? Okay. Never thought you'd see this in a superhero movie. It's so edgy and gross and funny. Okay.
CG butts, man. Gotta love them.
I mean, I'm glad that wasn't the subtitle for the film.
No, it doesn't matter.
Because I don't think I'd have seen it if it was called Deadpool 2 CG Butts.
Blue Dragon 5 says it's baby. I mean, it's baby Hitler, DJ. Yeah, but that doesn't matter. That's Deadpool's whole argument. Like, this kid's gonna grow up and kill a whole bunch of people, but he just doesn't want to kill him because he's a kid.
Yeah, like at what point do we decide that somebody's evil enough that even as a baby we're gonna decide that they don't have any chance? Like, if you're already okay with changing a timeline, go back with Hitler and do the same thing you did with this kid. Now, well, you can't do exactly the same thing because obviously his upbringing is very different. You'd have to get Hitler really early, and you basically have to take him totally out of the situation he's in. In fact, if I were going to try to change Hitler's backstory not by appealing to anything with Hitler, trying to help get him raised right, and I was just going to go do one thing, I'd murder his father. If you get rid of Hitler's father, I think maybe you don't end up with Hitler the same way that he was. But I don't know. I'm not condoning murder, time travel, or otherwise. This is a theoretical, fictitious notion.
I always get in the mindset of After Dark, where we just come up with a title on the fly in those episodes, and I was like, just want to call this episode Cap Condones Murder. But we don't do that here. This is Marvel Mania.
Mutelli says, how do you get teary-eyed from that moment? I half buy it. Because it's like he's making a deliberate choice. I think the tears are supposed to tell you that that kid still has potential to go the right way, and even he knows it, and he's still pushing against it. And actually, I'll go even farther and say it helps that we see that emotion from him there, so that we buy his immediately doing a 180 and changing his tune more when Deadpool sacrifices himself for him. Because when he says, I can't trust you, he's trying to convince himself of that. It's like, oh, this guy really does believe in me, but I don't know if I can trust that. And so I'm going to double down on I cannot trust him. And then maybe it's, like I said, a little bit more believable when we get that. This is kind of a creative way to get a Dark Deadpool suit, which is a thing we do in comics every so often. It was kind of fun to see. One? What's that?
I was just saying, yeah, the gray one, the gray and black one that he has.
Yep.
Which I was wondering if.
I could go into a whole thing about how it's kind of a good idea with Cable that he lost, a daughter, and it's a kid that he has to kill, and that's that's really sad, messed up, and in a way he's doing the same thing Russell is, where he's like doubling down on a thing that he's not comfortable with. Like, you can tell he doesn't really want to do that. Otherwise he wouldn't have given Deadpool even the 30 seconds, and he gave him significantly more than that. He just claimed that's all he was gonna, you know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want to kill a kid. And there may even be some, maybe I'm reading into this, there may even be some, I'm worried that I will become the thing that I'm trying to stop from happening to some degree. Not that he'll be a villain, but it just, am I any better? But he's desperate. He wants his family back.
Yeah, and I buy this. This is not what I'm talking about. I buy that he lets the kid live. I don't buy
I do too.
that he all of a sudden gives up his chance to be with his family
just to
so
save
Deadpool?
Yeah, I don't either. He's exactly the first person on the planet that would let Deadpool make this sacrifice. Absolutely, he would. And yeah, also, the biggest problem with it is you're not going to go to the future to make sure that your family is okay. Like you changed a thing. How can you be totally sure that it fixed everything? There's all kinds of time travel stuff where you fix one thing and then you go check on it and you realize something else makes it happen anyway. So there's that. But also, he says the reason he's staying behind, he says, I didn't do it for you, which I don't buy for a minute. I mean, I didn't do it for you, Deadpool. I'm going to stay and make sure that humanity doesn't ruin itself like it did in my future. Okay, so how do you know your family exists in the future that you change? So you did all of this to save your family, and then you're going to deliberately change your own future beyond it. That doesn't make sense from a time traveler's perspective. Right?
Yeah, I guess he'll just... I mean, what if one day he changes something and then he looks down and his bear is gray again? Like, oh crap. I messed it up.
Mr. Roboto says they could use his legs to clone him. Yeah, exactly. They just go find his legs, and then they'd just have to wait around and let it reconstitute itself, probably. In the theater, the multiple death, or not multiple death, but the, you think he's dead and he keeps turning out not to be dead thing was pretty great. It is the thing about this movie that does not hold up great in rewatches, just because you know when he's going to do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, a lot of comedy is just that way. Like, it's kind of hard to...
There's no way around it, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're right in the moment, Professor Zoom, but... That's not exactly what I'm talking about. So he says, but the bear, Cap, because they do the Back to the Future thing with this.
Now.
Yeah, they do the Back to the Future thing where he has an artifact that, if it's in good shape, tells you that they're okay in the future. Yeah, but if he sticks around and tries to deliberately make it a different future, how does he know if his family is even going to exist? And even if they do, how does he know what they'll be like? Like... I just think that's kind of sloppy when your whole thing is... Simultaneously, you're basically saying the future is whatever you make it, but also, my family that I care more about than anything in the world, to the point where I would have killed a kid, is in a future that could change, and that I'm deliberately trying to change. That's weird. Like, they're really just using that as an excuse to be able to save Deadpool.
Yeah. Because we got to make more of these, Cap. Come on.
Okay, but I think we've solved it. Just do it with the Deadpool legs. Like, yeah, you end up with a Deadpool that doesn't remember the rest of this happened, and that could be tedious and irritating. Where when you get to the end of the movie, it's sort of that Gamora thing, where it's like now you're just watching a Deadpool from a previous a time frame, not timeline, but time frame, where he's not gone through this arc and he's not going to be a hero. But you know what? I don't want him to be a hero after this, so I would actually sort of be okay with that maybe. Like
that.
The more I'm thinking about it, I actually think I would be okay with that.
That would be so weird. But hey, this Deadpool gets his happy ending with Vanessa, and then you get a more comic book Deadpool out of it too.
Yeah. And it's not a brand new character, because everything that he's done up to this point he would have. And he would even still be jaded because he saw Vanessa die. There'd still be that part of it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not joking, Professor Zoom. I think that's a great idea that you stumbled on with a joke.
Says, I was joking, Cap, and put some very alarming emojis. He does not agree with your idea, Cap.
Oh, God. Don't do it. No. Well, luckily for you, I'm not in charge.
So, Austin told me that that after credit scene where he saves her was added because the test audiences freaked out that she was actually stayed dead at the end. Do you know anything about that? Is that true?
No, I didn't know that, if that is the case. All I have heard is a lot of people said you can't trust the after credits thing because it's time travel and because it's after credits, to which I respond, okay, so when you go see an MCU movie and you see the after credits at the end, you just assume that it doesn't matter. Like, I get that we retcon a lot of those, but in the moment, they're clearly meant to matter. And then, because enough people were confused on that point, if memory serves, Ryan Reynolds or one of the producers of this movie came out and said, oh no, Vanessa is alive at the end. We meant that to be canonical with the rest of the film. That's all I know, though. I did not know that that was added, if that's the case. And that makes a lot of sense if that's true, because where it's fit in that is very strange. Like, the order of it is weird. Again, we'll talk about it, but...
Yeah, it's so weird. It's just like... Yeah, we'll talk about it, but...
No,
it doesn't matter when you see the next movie.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, Tom put in a $2 super chat. Was that a Trump joke about not staring at the sun? No, that wouldn't have happened yet. I don't think. Not when they're filming this. No, this comes out in 2018. That couldn't have happened as they're filming this, I would not think. But anyway. It was a super chat, so I had to read
it. Yeah, I didn't even know what he was talking. I didn't even hear the joke that he was talking about.
Oh, there's, I like that moment a lot. There's a bit where Deadpool is like, oh, I'm about to die. There's a bright light. Oh wait, that's the sun. Don't stare directly into that. And I thought that was pretty funny.
Oh, okay, yeah, I do remember that.
That's pretty good. Blue Dragon 5, Cap, I think the bigger takeaway now is it a happy ending that won't be a conflict because of the reboot nature of Deadpool 3? Well, yes, of course, that is the question at this point. And I'm mostly just talking from the perspective of when this movie comes out and how I'm feeling about the future of this franchise. But, I mean, I could see it going all kinds of different ways, right? Like again, I think the most likely thing is it will be a straight-up reboot, but Deadpool will know it. And I really hope that's what they do, because I think they could get a lot of fun mileage out of that in the fourth wall breaking bits of it. And if I were going to do that, I would just leave the Vanessa thing out of it completely. I know I'm in a reboot. I don't have my wife anymore. These writers suck. They didn't give me my cool wife. That's what I would do with it. If they don't go that way and they just make more or less what they would have done in the first place and she's just there, I just don't know how you can do any tragic stuff with Deadpool anymore, because you can't kill her again. Like, oh, it counts this time. All you can really do is have him ruin the timelines. If you ran full tilt with the time travel thing. But if you just ignore all the stuff he does in the credits besides that, and you just go, well, this movie happened more or less the way it happened, but Vanessa is alive now, I just don't see that you've got anywhere to go from there. I'd love to be proven wrong. I always say you can make anything work, but I don't see it right off.
Deadpool with a kid, the whole movie. That's weird.
Oh. Yeah. I don't need that.
Yeah. I mean, that's where it would have to go.
I'm with you, yeah. But I just don't know if I need, like, a happy Deadpool with a family. Like, this was supposed to, like, you know, go its own way and not be like other superhero things. Not that we've done a lot of superheroes with kids in movies. I don't mean that. But it's just, he's just a bona fide superhero at that point. Like, can he even continue on being a mercenary if you decide that he's not a family man, if it's still in continuity with this? I mean, probably not, because otherwise he didn't really learn anything, right? Like, his heart can't be in the right place if he decides to keep doing the thing that got his wife killed. I like that line delivery a lot. When he says you did it for me a bunch of times in a row, and that's pretty funny. So let me talk about
7.
Let me talk. Yeah, yes, 7 is great. I love that. So let me talk about the big issue that I've got with this scene. So this falls into that pesky script writing thing of, because the audience has already seen something that now hasn't happened, we're still going to kind of pretend like it did anyway. So we reset time, and this time Cable makes sure that Deadpool survives. And Deadpool takes the bullet, we think, but then it turns out that that it was deflected by the lead, right? And the first time around, he saves Russell, but he also has to give Russell a speech and talk about what it means for him, and they make a connection. And that doesn't happen now. He just tries to save him, and then it's enough for Russell that he managed that. And maybe it would be. I'm not saying that doesn't necessarily work, but it's weird that there's been no discussion about it. It stops being about Russell. Now it's completely about, oh my God, Cable, you saved my life. Russell is now completely in the background, and nobody in that circle is remotely concerned that this kid might still end up growing up and being a supervillain. We don't even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a mistake. And because Dopinder is a side character that's, like, that we're not all that concerned with, Deadpool does not care that he is doing everything he can to turn this guy into a nut job. Like, he's fine with that. That's
he's
not
dangerous. He doesn't have powers. That's fine.
Okay. He's only gonna run over people that deserve it. Like a guy who wants to be a superhero now and is. I guess I'm just not completely understanding Deadpool's deal by the end of this. I guess your heart's in the right place only applies to this one kid. And I'm not saying that his morality would completely change, but he's okay with helping this other guy go onto a path of contract killer when that's the thing that got his wife killed. Like, does he have a sense of real friendship with anybody? I don't know. I kind of don't get him by the end.
Well, and the kid still gets to see the guy die. Like, it's not how different is it that he just didn't do the killing?
Wow, yeah, that's true. And actually, that's the issue I had with it in the theater. I forgot all about that part of it.
It's like, yes, I just had to wait 5 minutes and then it happened anyway.
Wolverine 1987, thanks for the £5 super chat. Could you contrive superpowers for Vanessa somehow and make her and Deadpool an action couple in Deadpool 3? Ooh, I would maybe be a little more okay with that. Yeah, you could. And just find some obscure mantle for her in the comics. Because I forget if Vanessa was actually a superhero in the comics. I just don't remember where that character came from now.
Well, Vanessa is Kingpin's wife, so...
That would be a different Vanessa, sir. Well, let's make that movie. Let's do the Deadpool, Kingpin, Vanessa love triangle. Throw Punisher in there for good measure as well. Tyler Thompson says, yeah, I kind of like this movie less every time I watch it. It's entertaining. It's a lot of fun, but it just there's some story and character stuff that keeps breaking down every time I watch it.
You know what I didn't notice? This movie does both. It has the opening credits and the ending credits.
So Mutale says that originally Deadpool was supposed to have a biological child in this movie, and asks if I would have liked that. I don't know. I just have to see it. I don't know how I feel about that. Like, I can't get excited about it just hearing that as a premise.
Yeah.
Again, I don't need him to be a full-on sociopath, but, like, the idea that he gets to be... And it's also kind of annoying that Deadpool would get to be a, like, family superhero when so many superheroes in movies that ought to be that never get to be. Like,
this scene is so horrible. Like,
it's bad
on so many levels. Like, not only is the Vanessa thing so dumb, but I know we didn't like Cable doing that at the end, but it completely ruins that too, because now he has infinite times he can go back. It's not just the 2 times anymore.
Yeah, so they fix it. So they take the time.
They just fix it.
And honestly, it's funny that you didn't even mention the big thing I was going to say about just that particular moment, which is, so Negasonic fixes it and improves upon it, and it doesn't occur to her until, and how long does that take? And how does she even know how to do that? But whatever. And then, like, it doesn't even occur to her that was a bad idea until she hands it to him. That's just lazy writing. And in a movie that makes fun of lazy writing, like, I really don't like that. Where, like, there's a couple of places where we kind of just write off, like, easy story choices because it's a parody comedy, and so Deadpool can just go, that's lazy writing, and we'll all laugh at it. And then you have really lazy writing at the end, intentionally, and you don't comment on it. And I'm not saying it's better if you do, but necessarily, but... Okay, so let's get into it. So he saves Vanessa. Let's start there. So he saves Vanessa. He goes farther back in time and saves Vanessa, and then he goes a little bit forward in time and he saves the X-Force guy. What's his name? Phil? He saves Phil.
Peter.
Or Peter, sorry. Now I'm Deadpool. I just can't remember anybody's name. So now he's he saves Peter, and but when he changes the timeline, saving Vanessa, wouldn't the X-Force thing not have even happened? So are we just watching it out of order? Like, does he go do that first and then he goes to Vanessa? Like, what is happening? And
the fact that the Vanessa thing is just shoved in with a bunch of jokes is so weird.
Yeah, no, it really is. And then he goes to things that couldn't happen in this continuity with a time travel device, which means that he has to be dimension hopping. Now, I'm going to stop myself here and say, I know what some of you are thinking. Some of you are going, well, Cap, it's just a joke. Yeah, okay. All right. But first of all, they came out and said it wasn't just a joke. By the way, we'll just go until your credits run out, because my Hulu just jumped over to Smallville. So, but anyway, so I'll just talk until you tell me we're done. So first of all, Ryan Reynolds or whoever involved with this movie came out and said that the Vanessa thing counts. They intended that, apparently, to be real and not just a joke they did in the credits. Secondly, I mean, it doesn't watch like a joke, right? Like, it's like, oh yay, he actually saved her and he gets his happy ending. That's how it watches. And then he goes.
I don't know what the joke is there.
Yeah, I don't know what the joke is. So I would not be complaining as much. In fact, it would just be kind of a fun nitpick for me to complain about the alternate dimension hopping that I see the Green Lantern and the Origins thing as, if he only did that. Like, if it was just jokes. Because you could say, well, clearly that stuff doesn't count, and even if it does, who cares? Like, if all he did, you'd need 2 or 3 more of them. Or at least 1 more. But if all he did was he jumps to like real life movie things that happen, and when he says cleaning up the timelines, isn't that weird too? Cleaning up the timelines, like, but it's a time travel machine. Wouldn't you just keep going into your same timeline? That's how the first one worked. And if it moved Deadpool and everybody else into another dimension somehow, another timeline. When Cable used it, we don't know about that. So I don't know. But all I'm saying is, if it was only supposed to be jokes, first of all, they should have all been jokes, and second of all, I wouldn't be complaining about the timeline hopping thing. You could make the argument, I guess, with the Green Lantern thing, that maybe the DC comic universe and movie universe exists as fiction in that, and there's like a real Ryan Reynolds, and he went and killed Ryan Reynolds. So you could have that, and like that could actually be a real thing that happens. But the Origins thing doesn't make any sense as an actual thing that we're seeing happen on screen. But again, I don't care about that if the Vanessa thing's not there. And the Vanessa thing by itself is awful, because I think it undercuts the whole movie. We basically just Superman 1 did, right? I mean, he basically just turned the world backwards, and the entire movie didn't happen, if that's supposed to be real. So you just wasted my time. Like the whole movie didn't happen. And I thought we were beyond that with just movies now. Like, I thought we just didn't do that anymore. So it's sad to me if that happened just because of a test audience. Test audiences ruin movies very often. They also save movies sometimes, but that was just a mistake as like a patchwork way to fix that, where it's like, well, people... Here's the thing. If people were that upset that you killed Vanessa, I'm going to say you did your job. Right? Like, isn't that what you were going for?
Yeah. That's
like, your
so
whole
weird.
opening credits was, aren't you so angry with us for killing her? And then you're going to turn your tail between your legs and go, oh my god, they were angry with us for... That's what you wanted, clearly!
Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, but that seems so weird. That's such a weird situation. Like, okay, she read the script and she knew that she was done with these movies. And then at the last minute, you're like, hey, you want to come back for another one? Because test audiences want you back?
Yeah.
It's just weird.
Professor Zoom says even the time travel breaks the fourth wall. And yeah, like I said earlier, that's the other thing that I have a huge problem with it, because that's the first and only time I can think of where we do a visual fourth wall break thing like that. There's little stuff like the Origins action figure in the first movie and that kind of thing, but nothing like super internal logic breaking. And that just breaks the whole internal logic of the whole movie to me. Unless it's not supposed to count at all. But it's very strange that you would have a scene that counts and the rest of it doesn't.
One last super chat I wanted to get to from earlier. Tyler Thompson wanted to know what we would do with Sinister. And I was kind of speculating, so I saved it for the end.
Read that again.
He just says, what would you do with Sinister?
Oh, what would we do with Sinister? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I would use it as an opportunity to finally make Cyclops and Jean Grey like fully realized characters. Like that's what you'd want to do with it, right? Is you'd want it to be the classic story where he tries to make New Mutants with Jean and Scott's DNA or whatever. But, I mean, Sinister is a really weird character. There's all kinds of crazy stuff you could do with it. Yeah, I mean, basically, it needs to be mutant genetic manipulation, whatever it is. Or a whole bunch of Sinisters, because that's a Sinister story that I like a lot. From... Who was it who wrote that? There's an X-Men story from, like, the mid 2010s. It's like everything is Sinister. It'd be fun to do that, but I think it would be maybe a little bit weird to open with a bunch of Sinisters. But you could do a big reveal about that. I suppose.
The credits just ended. I have one more super chat from TH1.
Okay, cool.
Vanessa becomes Lady Death in Deadpool 3?
Yeah.
Question mark.
I don't know about that.
He doesn't know about it, Tom. He doesn't know.
Well, I mean, she would just suddenly have to be a completely different character for no reason. And again, you'd have to retcon their ending in the credits, which I guess is sort of fine with me because I don't like it, but it's there.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I guess I was gonna say if her being dead will affect her character at all moving forward, but it won't because it just didn't happen. Because it's like a straightforward timeline that he just stopped from happening.
I think it would be really amusing if Sinister was finally in just a Deadpool movie, like after like all those teases of him being in X-Men movies, and he's like the last like really really big character that a lot of people have heard of. There's other villains, of course, but I mean, he's one of the big classic ones we never did in any way in the movies. And then Deadpool's like, you know what? Can we just finally have him in a movie, please? Thank you. And then there he is.
And Adam Warlock, just do it both in Deadpool.
Tyler Thompson, yeah, don't make a Deadpool 3. This universe is broken. It kind of feels broken at the end. I wonder if it's possible that Disney getting Fox and Deadpool being connected to MCU doesn't end up being the best thing that could have happened to it, because they didn't know that they were going to be forced in a potential reboot situation when they made this movie, and they kind of screwed themselves up at the end, in my opinion. Again, depending on what we saw with the third one, they could win me over on it in some way. I just don't know what that looks like, but it could be that being in this weird situation could be the thing that makes it an easy fix for them. Blue Dragon 5, again, even if we erase the film, Deadpool's going to remember it, so it still counts. Yeah, I mean, that could still be somewhat problematic, because if you wanted to continue on with a tragic, not, fully superhero-esque Deadpool, it could be difficult to do that with what happened here, but also he could just, I don't know, especially... I think any way you slice it, Vanessa's not in the next movie. Let me just say that. I think she's likely to. I think they're likely to do the write her out in between movies somehow thing. Because again, I don't see what you could possibly do moving forward with her. And if you did that, then I think the whole thing. Because Blue Dragon 5, I think you could make it about Deadpool remembers this and he got to the best place in his life at the end of this, and then the big suits in the real world decided to reboot his universe and take everything away from him. And you make that his tragedy, like it is in Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, kind of. Like you make the fourth wall breaking thing finally like a story point. And for whatever reason, he understands that he's a fictional character that people just keep doing mean things to because that's what you're supposed to do to Deadpool. And he doesn't like that. And he's trying to break his way out of his universe into ours to make the writers pay for doing this crap to him. That really turned me around on the whole fourth wall breaking thing with Deadpool. I think it's the best thing Cullen Bunn ever wrote, and I loved the metafiction of that, and I think you could do a movie with it. And am I sick of some metafiction stuff because we do it too much and alternate universes and all that? Yes, absolutely. But that's a thing I would like to see adapted, because if you're ever going to do it, now's the time. We seem like we're in a perfect place now to adapt that. And if you don't do it now, never do it. But now is the time. I think that could be really cool. Anyway, all right. Well, DJ, I'm sorry. Do you have anything else that you want to throw out before we end off this evening?
That was a fun little watch. Lighter than some of the ones we've been doing on Marvel Mania here lately, so that was fun.
Yeah, it was nice to get that kind of a break right after Infinity War. I'm glad we've got a few movies in between Infinity War and Endgame.
Yeah, well, speaking of breaks, the next one is what? Ant-Man and the Wasp, so...
Okay, well, we'll see you for a couple-hour nap in 2 weeks.
That would be amazing if we just recorded ourselves.
If we just took, that more than anything else in this series is going to be the thing that's going to make me want to do something else while we're watching a movie. And if you were in the same room as me, we absolutely would be. We'd be making omelets or something.
Yeah, if anybody has any cool ideas of what we could do, I don't know.
Man, if you were in the room, we'd get like a hot plate right in front of us. We'd just be cooking the whole time, while we're watching stuff.
We just get a bunch of flies and release them in the room, and we spend the whole time trying to swat them.
Or we get chopsticks and we just try to grab the flies with a chopstick.
Yeah.
Well, Hot Flame,
I'm
glad you really like that movie. I think it's kind of dull and uninspired and had really no business existing. But
oh, he said psych. He gotcha.
No, Daniel Davis says that. I think Hawk Flame legitimately likes that movie.
Oh, okay. I see that.
Oh no, I think he said psych. Well, was it psych or? Oh, yeah, I guess he did mean that he was kidding. I thought maybe he just meant that he said a thing at the same time as somebody else said it, but that's not what psych means. So, play Truth or Dare during Ant-Man and the Wasp. That is an amazing notion. I mean, probably not though. All right, cool. So that's
everybody tune in next week and keep us company and give us things to talk about, because that's going to be a tough one.
In 2 weeks. We will also be back on Thursday for another Captain Logan show with an After Dark right after, so look forward to that. Lots of cool stuff coming your way on Geekvolution. In 2 weeks, we'll see you for another Marvel Mania. Look forward to that. It'll be fun to see how many folks even feel the need to show up for Ant-Man and the Wasp. But do be here, because it'll be fun, I'm sure. We will find a way to make it enjoyable for you. There's some good stuff in that movie. I just think it's kind of lame. But we'll talk about it. Well, folks, thanks so much for watching. Hope you had a great time. We really enjoyed it, I am sure. And we'll see you again soon. I was Captain Logan. That was DJ Martinez.
See you later, guys.
Bye, everybody.